Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my live Q&A. Second time around, just want to check, make sure my sound is good. If you want to send me a message there, Sue. And today I've looked over the questions. Awesome, thank you. I've looked over the questions from last week, and I've chosen 3 questions that I feel like are really relevant to our time and are, really good questions on behalf of everyone. So we're going to start with gold and silver and the RV. So I'm going to be shuffling here. Let's move the screen down a little bit so you can have a look at what I'm doing with my hands. Good morning. Hello, Marie. I'm feeling confident enough today to actually look over at the chat. I was speaking with Sue just before we went on this morning, and I was saying that the nerves that I have around doing this are more about the technology than they are about, doing cards. On behalf of everyone, hello. So here we go. We're tuning in together. The more we can all focus on this question, the better it is. And what I want to know is, what can we expect with regards to the prices of gold and silver and the RV, the reevaluation? And let's give a timeline to this. Let's say within the next 2 months. So here we go. Lay out the cards. So this is us. We're all raring to go. And we're also all prepared to shift gears at a moment's notice. So flexibility is the key word with this card. It's about staying flexible, staying positive. So that's really great. What do we need to know? Okay, so this Queen of Cups is a lot of, we spoke about her last week. She's a lot about the sensitivity, the emotional aspect of things. And let's have a look. Here we go. In the past, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of different thoughts about this, and a lot of, let's just say, I'm going to call this static on the airwaves, which, if you think about weather on the ocean, because I like the Queen of Cups, to me, is like the ocean. She's like our emotional experience of whatever the situation is. She's like the great big vast ocean of our emotion. And the sword cards are the element of air. So they're like great winds over the ocean. And you know what happens when you have that energy over the ocean? It creates huge waves and huge storms and a lot of electrical activity. So let's just start by saying, I believe there's been quite a lot of confusion inserted into this whole topic, perhaps intentionally. And we need to stay really grounded in our deeper understanding of why this matters. Yeah. So here we are in the current situation, and it looks like what we are doing is we're going back to basics. Again, this is a deep subconscious card. So it's like these characters that you see, that lobster there, it's just crawling out, or a crayfish crawling out of this great ocean, trying to get perspective. And then we go into the near future. Okay, so this is a big yes. This is what we call the upgrade card. It's judgment. Janine used to say about this card, go big or go home. So looks like we are going big. Now, we asked about the next 2 months. I always see this card. You see the cross there on the banner of our angel. that to me always represents 4. So I would say this is more like 4 months, 3 or 4 months, as opposed to 2 months. So a big collective upgrade. I love how that angel's horn is gold. So, and I also see this as a repair, almost like an emergency first aid card. So we're going to talk about that for a second as well, because, yep, this to me opens up a lot of other topics. Oh, and you can't see this. I'm going to just tilt the screen down a little bit more. This opens up a lot of other topics while we're waiting on the RV. We are also activating other forms, new forms of while we're waiting. So there's the waiting, the hanging man, new directions also being put into place. So this to me would be other forms of new economics, new currency, new economic systems, and so on. Again, I always say with these times, and when you look back to this card, this is about keeping your options open, not putting all your eggs in one basket. If there ever was a time on planet Earth for us to not put all our eggs in one basket, I feel like this is it. So if you're waiting on this as being the only solution forward with regards to economic security and so on, yes. Okay. And I've been getting this for a while. We also need to brace ourselves because the shift between systems, if it happens too quickly, I just was saying this with Sue this morning before we got on the call, if it happens too fast, it again has the opposite effect of what we want. What we want is the birth of a beautiful new healthy system. And that requires a lot of diverse types of transitional currencies. We could get into talking about crypto around this. And actually one of the biggest things that I've been getting lately, folks, is that we are going to be seeing money being paid to people receiving payments with regards to things that were taken or stolen from them. So this is something that I've been seeing for a while, and I get that this could start within the next 7 or 8 weeks. So what we are seeing first is some kind of legal acknowledgement and reparations being made to individuals, to organizations, basically the beginning of repairing what was taken from us is part of this. And when I say seeing these 4 different streams coming in, that's the kind of diversity that I'm speaking about. I feel it's important for us to see the RV as being one stream, and I'm actually seeing it being the bottom stream, meaning that it is the ground, it's the bedrock, because it literally is the minerals of the earth. And that is something so tangible and so obvious to ground our economic systems in this value. However, it's not the end all be all. So there we go. Let's just pop up. I'll have a look at the chats here for a second. Thank you. Lovely. Can it be 4 days or 4 weeks? Oh my gosh. Well, yes, I think anything is possible. And what's really important is that we don't, oh yeah, look at that. Look who's on the bottom here. I feel it's so beautiful to say, let's speed this up. Like, yeah, let's make this faster. And as long as you're okay with saying, if it doesn't happen like that, you're not going to get discouraged and jump off or fall off the train or the wagon. It feels to me like, if it has to be faster, if we're really attached to it, then we're actually going to slow it down. If we say, let's just create the energy to move this in whatever direction is healthiest for all of us and really work with spirit. So yeah, absolutely keep those prayers coming, keep those positive affirmations coming. I always, as a reader over the years, what I've learned is to err on the side of conservative forecasting, particularly around timelines. And that's our next question, is timelines, because it is troublesome. I know I've had it for myself when people have predicted for me in readings over the last several decades that something was going to happen in a time frame, and if it didn't happen, I actually started to believe that everything I thought about this was wrong, and I would let my mind sort of discourage me and pull me down. So this is where forecasting around time is really tricky. So what a great segue into our next question. Here I'm going to turn the screen down again, and let's look at what do we need to know about timelines. The first word that I'm hearing is grace. So it just makes me take a big deep breath. And what I hear, almost like the ancestors speaking and saying, is, why are you all in such a big rush? So let's just look at that for a minute and see what the cards have to say about this. I mean, obviously, we're in a rush because there's a lot of anxiety. Let's see what we need to know about timelines. Wow. Beautiful start to this question. Here we are, 9 of Cups. This is the wish fulfilled card. And when I used to do readings for people, when this card came up, I'd say, make a wish. So the first message, this is us, all of us together. The first message is, do we know what we actually want? One of the things that happens, the way we've been conditioned, is that look at this. What do we need to know about timelines as an overall answer is meditate on the desired best case scenarios, the wishes. You see these golden cups? This character is lying still and quiet, calming their mind and looking for real beautiful messages, what it is that they actually want. They're getting tuned in to their deeper soul self and their greater imagination of what's possible. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to get a lot better at asking for it. You know, the power of our thoughts, our words, our expressions, the things that we tell ourselves over and over again. People often say, oh, well, I tried that positive affirmation, or I tried that manifestation exercise and it didn't work. There's a magic number around 40 days. 40 days of repeating something, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's boring and you've already given up and you're just discouraged. I mean, let's be honest, we've all been there, right? So they're saying, you know, not only do you need to know for a fleeting moment what your desired timeline looks like, you need to hold that for potentially 40 days. We are so, in a way, you know, our attention deficit at this point as humans that have been so addicted to the modern experience of having, you know, all this information. Oh yeah, look at this. Too much data clogging the system. And then we get this like kind of like a mental crash going on. And so it started off, to me, this is our timeline. And it actually, they're taking me back 6 years and then they're taking me forward 10 years. Okay, I don't know what this is about exactly, folks. We're in on this together. We're discovering in the moment here. But what I'm seeing is we go back 6 years. So take yourself back 6 years and you look What was going on for you right then? What were you working on? What were you working on shifting into a new direction? This is awesome. This is awesome. We are going in a new direction. We have vision. We have thoughts, ideas. You know, I've spoken to so many people over the years that said, you know, before March of 2020, they were just getting really activated on a particular path and getting really focused, and they had coalesced a lot of actualization, and they were really feeling you know, clear and direct on a path. And then, of course, what happened just sort of sideswiped everything. So the question here is this not perhaps part of the plan? And again, you know, we need to hold on to our visions even through the stormy weather. Like, it feels like it has a lot to do with us building our resilience mentally so that we don't drop the plot as soon as we have some outside you know, challenge. So yeah, oh wow. Oh my goodness. So the near future, the potential future, here we are right now. Again, I got 10 years forward. It's going to take probably, again, stay calm. I'm not saying it has to, but I'm saying give yourself permission to stretch out and really do this well. Clearing out all, we've brought to the surface so much negativity, so much energy around manipulation and control. And this is a process to clear this, everybody. But look at the prognosis. You could not have a better card in the future around timelines. This, to me, is rebirth of humanity. Full stop. So again, they're saying go gracefully. Do you see how graceful and gracious this world dancer is? She's the final major arcana. She is the final. Those are the big teacher cards. And this is like you've graduated. She's like the graduation. You got the lessons. You learn to stick with it. You learn to hold on to your belief and your value and your intention, your goal with integrity, with grace, even through the stormy nights. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay. And here's the other thing. It's also about clearing old patterns of coping that are dysfunctional. This is basically around clearing dysfunction. So we've got potentially still quite a bit of work to do in this area. This is, to me, around trauma. It's around, it's around our mental health. And what's at the root of this is literally thousands of years of programming. So we are doing so great, and this is inevitable, the best case scenario timeline, which we know how to vision. And we've got to keep in that stream with, because there's still a lot to go through in clearing. So I'm sorry if that's distressing for you. And I guess what I want to say is, you know, this is really beautiful too, because what it feels like is as we're ready, you see this battle weary individual here. He's got that patch over his eye. He's been through a lot, but he's still ready to keep going. You know, it's the number 9. So it's synthesizing all the experience. The number 10 is the new beginning, or the release, the completion. So we're almost there, 90% of the way there. This is very encouraging. And there's going to be, what we want to call in now is a lot of support in the material realm. So a lot of support around things like money, resources, working together, building on behalf of everyone building the new paradigm in the material reality and getting the support from spirit, from our off-world allies, getting the support to rebuild, starting with what we have control over and, consolidating our resources and so on, so that we have the support to continue to do this trauma healing work. And, oh, yay. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. So really amazing stabilizations happening over distance communities, local and distance communities, cross-pollinating, sharing their skills. So this is kind of like the revolution that we've seen over the last few years, over the last 6 years. Remember I talked about that? This is really where it's become possible for us to connect the way we are right now, and where it's become possible for us to learn so much from what people are doing in other places over the internet. So this is going to be, I hope this is a question we can look at next week, because I feel like this is one of our strong suits, that we are, the guides are saying we're not necessarily making use of it as well as we could. Okay, so we are now ending off on a topic that has been really in the news lately, and it touches me in my personal life. I've had personal, very close connections with this topic, and I feel like it's a very, very deep topic spiritually. Not something that's going to be certainly answered in a 5-minute card reading. And I feel like as long as you're okay with this, everyone, if you're okay with us going into this topic, willing to see that there's a lot more questions that need to be asked than answers needing to be brought forward at this time. If you're not comfortable with that, you might want to tune out now, because that's how I approach really big, spiritually philosophical questions. It's not about let's get a solution. It's about let's explore deeper, because it wouldn't be in this great big, it's like kind of having a ball of yarn that's got into a huge knot. And, if we want to unravel it quickly, we're just going to have to cut it up into pieces, and then there's nothing left. And we're all damaged as a result. To untangle it is a really big thing. And yet some people are very, very good at this process. So let's look at this topic. It is around the really obvious, very serious concerns around gender identity and all of this new identity paradigm that, of course, so many of you are acknowledging is a lot more to do with, or the way it's been stirred up has a lot more to do with directions of some controlling entities that want us to get very confused and very disconnected from our soul selves. So I've done some shuffling, and I'm going to lay out cards about this topic. Here we go. Curiosity. Aha. Again, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm constantly saying we've got to dig deeper, go into more contemplation as opposed to reaction. Okay. So let's explore a little and see what might be some of the deeper questions we can start asking. Okay. So as I was getting ready, oh, wow. Gosh, as I was getting ready, holy, whoa. This morning, and I was thinking about this question, a lot of insight was coming to me, and I was reminded of reading a book by an elder shaman from Africa. His name is Malidome Soma. I read this book. It's called Ritual, and I read it, gosh, again, it must be over 20 years, maybe even 25 years ago now. And in that book, he's talking about doing work with men at these men's retreats. And what they were doing, in effect, was creating these initiations or rite of passage for men, young men, different aged men that were really lost and struggling either with addictions, and they really wanted to heal in their masculinity. And so he constructed this beautiful ritual that was designed to give them an experience of going through an initiation or a rite of passage. And what he was astonished by, this was in the United States like 25 years ago, and what he was astonished by after having experience in Africa working with the youth of his culture is that the men here, when it came to the part of the ritual where you would make your offerings, the men were actually so, I want to say, filled with grief and filled with trauma that they literally started trying to jump into the fire themselves. And this, to me, is what we're looking at. This is actually a really big, look at this. We've been headed towards some kind of brick wall for a long time. So I'm going to go back with, this is a 7. I'm going to go back at least 700 years, but we could go back 7,000. It's going to be echoes of repeat, and we see that the energies have got even more tied up into that ball of yarn that I was talking about. And we basically, this isn't something that just happened a few years ago because the controlling forces are trying to manipulate our children. We've been heading towards this kind of a challenge for a really long time. And this is, again, a huge turning point for humanity, the way we approach this. Because what's going to happen, obviously, if we try to attack from any sort of position, if we attack the media, we're going to get into, truth media wars. If we attack the youth and say, you're doing things wrong, don't listen to these things, these are terrible influences. I mean, we can just look throughout history. How well has that worked when the older generation has tried to tell the youth not to follow the latest trend? It's like, basically what we definitely don't want to do is push this to the point where we have more radical polarization. And that's kind of where we're headed. So this is, if we can say, this is actually a very, very complicated, complex spiritual conundrum that we're in. And basically know that we need to not polarize and go into extremes. Okay. Now I am not by any means saying that I'm in agreement with what's being done in our education systems, that I'm in agreement with basically the introduction of this has been part of basically responding to our youth's need for, the controlling forces see that our youth are aimlessly floating around, that they don't have rites of passage, that they don't have strong culture supporting them, that, youth will always look for some form of initiation. They will always look for it. So if we're not providing that in a beautiful, healthy system, they are going to be drawn to whatever's being up on offer. So yeah, I definitely feel like our first line of defense, we're doing two things at once. On the one hand, we're saying stop this stream from damaging our young children. So we're going legally to bat around that. But be aware of how important it is how we go legally to bat around this. Because if we go in polarized and trying to make either our youth or this whole issue a black and white scenario, we're going to face it. It probably will get much worse, and our opportunity for doing healing around it is going to be a lot less gracious. Again, it is messy and things do need to stop right now in their tracks. I agree. We need to get legislation in place that at least staves this off long enough that we can have the deeper conversations about what is at the root of this. Again, this is a spiritual, cultural crisis that eventually, it trickles down, and our youth are the ones that are being kind of thrown on the fire, as I was saying, but they're doing that willingly because they're crying out for some kind of deeper mythology and deeper meaning in life. Okay. I want you to really hold those two words, deeper mythology and deeper meaning in life. What this gives them is a new mythology. And let's think about that. Let's think about what is it that they're actually looking for. So again, this is not something that's going to be dealt with in a few months, even a few years. However, there is I'm going to leave you off with this very positive reflection. This is actually, believe it or not, even at a grassroots level, there is a turning point. We are, I want to say 8 or 10 weeks away. Oh yeah, right? 8 or 10 weeks. Look at, there it is again. 8 weeks, 10. We are a couple of months away from some kind of legal decision that's going to halt this in its tracks for at least a couple of years around our young children. Okay. So consider that the first line of defense, but please do not think of this as this is an isolated thing that we just need to solve this one particular issue and get back to business as usual. This is the result of us not having the ability to face this lack of spiritual meaning and initiatory practice in our culture. Our youth are basically sort of left to the wolves in that respect. So, as we all have been, so we all were when we were youth as well. And we made some really strange choices, a lot of us, based on the fact that we weren't acknowledged for who we really were. We weren't given support to actually develop into these beautiful human beings with all these extraordinary gifts. We were given, I remember, we were given like 2 or 3 options, and you had to choose one of those. And if you chose the option that was a little bit more like, connected to curiosity, exploration, freedom, expansion, creativity, you usually ended up being a rebel. You were branded in a certain way. How many of our extraordinary, brilliant minded and hearted beings who were like geniuses or phenomenal leaders were just sort of set. It was like, well, you don't fit in this square system. So off you go to the side, and you're going to end up in these kinds of crises. So this, again, as I said, this is a much, much bigger ball of wax. And thank you for hanging in there with me so that we can start to very gently unravel this. It's going to be a long conversation, miles to go. I'm in for the long haul. If you all are with me, we can go step by step and look at ways to explore this, examine it from different angles, feel really empowered that we're not just either closing our eyes or putting up our fists. Okay, we're opening our hearts. Blessings to you all. Have a wonderful week. I'm going to check your comments. If you'd like to have a question for next week's live, same time, same place, I'll read over your comments, look at your questions, and choose 2 or 3 for us to explore next week. Blessings to you all. Have a beautiful week. Bye for now.